So for the past bunch of days, I've been messing around with a Detonation Amon build that I have turned into something that I'm really, really happy with. When I was first starting this thing out, it was basically I could get it to boss really well, or I could get it to mob really well. It was kind of tough to get both. But now I've settled on a perfect balance between the two. You can still one-shot everything in the game with no crit knife, no bugs, anything like that. You can just absolutely destroy them. Awesome part is we get to use the space laser, easily the coolest looking attack in the entire game. If you guys are unaware, it's an underbarrel for a gun called the Oscar Mike. It sends down just this giant space laser that does so much damage, and it synergizes really well with what we're trying to do in this build. So that part is really nice. And then for all the mobbing, you just end up one-tapping everything, and if you don't, you then just punch them and explode them, and it's very, very satisfying. It's a very fast-paced build. You can get your damage ramped up very quickly with the items that we're using in this build, and you're just overall going to be kind of nuking everything, 1 to 2 shotting most things, and then, like I said, if you don't end up killing them, you just punch them and they will explode into red mist, and it's freaking awesome, and I've been having a lot of fun with this. This is easily the best Amon has felt to me so far. There's also a lot of flexibility that you can use with this build. You don't have to use the exact items that I'm using. I'll be listing off some alternatives once we get to the gear section. But yeah, there's a bunch of different things you can play with. They all work really well, but I will obviously be sharing what I've liked the best so far for my stuff. Yeah, if you want to help more people see this build, make sure you leave a like on the video and also consider leaving a comment down below. It really does help me out. And if you guys want to help me hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, make sure you are subscribed. We got a bunch more Borderlands 4 content on the way, but let's go ahead and jump into the build. Let's start off with the main things that we're trying to achieve with this build. So if we take a look at our main skills that's going to be making this possible, we're going to be utilizing the Force of Nature augment. So this is going to store up damage on a target. So essentially what you want to do with this, long story short, is get, 10 hits to hit really hard, because all of that is going to be stored on the enemy. And when you hit them with a forge skill or a melee attack, it's going to detonate it based off of that damage. And that's going to be like kind of the new base damage. So you can end up getting this to hit insanely hard. I mean, insanely hard. If you were willing to use a crit knife and everything, like hundreds of millions, like it's crazy how hard you can make this hit. And then so we're going to be using Stormcutter with this just because I find it the best out of our two options that we end up getting unlocked with this setup. So I end up just running this because we can get the duration back on our action skill, ordnance back. Like this ends up being the best, even though it's 10-second longer cooldown. We get a ton of cooldown with Fists of Stone, so it's not really too big of a deal. But the really cool part is with our class mod, we get points into Raging Inferno. This gives our action skill damage a chance to critically hit, and critical hits from our action skill apply burn based off the damage that it dealt. Now, Force of Nature, the detonation damage, is an action skill. So if this detonation critically hits, it's going to be applying a huge burn. So we can actually take a look at this really quick. I don't know if I'm going to be guaranteed getting the burn here, but activate our action skill. We're going to throw a grenade over here to apply our Dragon's Breath and a little amp. Then here's the space laser that I was talking about. Boom. We can be hitting really, really hard. And we do that 36 million, and there's a pretty big dot out of it as well. So it's pretty nuts what you can end up achieving once you combo this. Now, we also are going to be getting a lot of points of Berserk here, and there's only red. We can stack this up essentially instantly, so we get a ton of bonus cryo damage, which is really going to help out. And then we just end up nuking basically everything. Like, you can one-shot any boss in the game with this setup fairly easily as long as you do the right combos. It's not like just a one-button press type thing. You have to do, like, for example, one thing I like to do is shoot a few Katagawa shots in preparation for the boss with the shock side, because that way when it spawns, it can start doing shock damage and applying shock for us and giving us critical hit chance, which is really going to help out our damage because we're not using the crit knife. We're going to be applying burn with that as well, which is also going to help out our critical hit damage. So there's a lot of things we can do to help out the build in general. And then we are also going to be using the fish slap grenade. Now, I would like an extra charge one, but take a look at the force skill cooldown right now. We're at 25 seconds. Throw this at the target. They're going to bounce a few times, and it's just instantly going to come back. So what you can do on a boss is use your forge skill first. That's what I highly recommend doing. And then throwing your fish slaps at the target, especially if you have 3 charges. If you have like the extra one, you can instantly get that forge skill back. Even with 2 charges, you can instantly get it back. So it's ready to go for once you put the space laser down on the target, and then you want to do your forge skill to detonate it once it's at 10 stacks. That's essentially what you want to be accomplishing for all of your bosses. And then for mobbing, I've really just been enjoying the Anarchy, to be honest. I have one with the Daedalus Sniper mode, which I really like. The shotgun mode is still really good. But as the Anarchy gets, higher and higher stacks and starts doing crazy damage, the shotgun mode gets a pretty big cone. Like this circle here on the shotgun mode is like a quarter of the screen. Like it gets insane. But the sniper mode makes it way more accurate. So like the sniper mode in its max, accuracy negatives essentially turns into what the shotgun looks like. Like that's pretty much where you're going to be sitting at. So this thing is still very accurate no matter what you're doing. The only thing you got to look out for if you do end up using the Anarchy is if you are out of ammo, like say you shoot your whole mag, right? This reload, if you go to punch somebody, that reload will happen in the middle of the punch and you end up just throwing it at the target. So you do have to be a little careful if you do plan on using the Anarchy. But there's a bunch of other guns that you can utilize, like the Rainbow Vomit is really good. You can use Hot Slugger. Anything like that ends up being pretty good. But my personal favorite so far has been the Anarchy compared. I go Anarchy, Rainbow Vomit, and then probably Hot Slugger in terms of like my top 3. And also the TK's Wave is pretty decent at badasses. If you get the like Torque Sticky stuff, like this ends up working really well. But the Anarchy, in my opinion, is just one-stop shop for everything. Especially if you get the Daedalus side and you get 2 rounds of ammo on it, like you're good to go in any mobbing section the entire time. So that's the main things going on with this build, but let's take a look at everything in depth a little bit further. For our skill trees, this is basically an entire red tree build. Now, what we can end up doing is increasing our incendiary damage because this is actually going to help us double dip since one of the other main skills that we're using, like Respect into it, our class mods will be giving us a bunch of it, is Dragon's Breath. It's a big amp damage. It's going to combine with your rep kits and your shield amp, and this will allow you to deal insane hits because that amp is going to persist out throughout the entirety of the orbital laser. So that's what ends up hitting, it's going to hit 10 times really, really hard and be perfect for our Force in Nature. And then this turns everything that you do incendiary damage. So normally the orbital laser is just kinetic. Now it's going to be incendiary damage, which can hurt you in certain scenarios, but now it's incendiary. It's going to be hitting a little bit harder, and Force in Nature is going to be incendiary. So it's going to double dip right there. So incendiary damage is very good for this build. I do have Wield the Storm just to help out our status effect damage if we do get the Raging Inferno to proc, and also it gives it more duration, so it end up dealing more damage. There's not like too many other great things for us in here, so I end up picking Wield the Storm. Bullet Storm gives us more gun damage when we apply status effects. We're applying a lot of status effects. I do have a point into Forge and Seal. It's going to help you keep your amp full since you are starting off boss fights with the Forge skill. That way, if the boss is doing anything weird, you're not getting your like amp shield taken off before you're ready. It helps out a lot. And then also Gut Punch, just because we're doing melee and ordnance with the Fish Slap, helps us apply a little bit more debuff on the enemy, which is nice. And then Catastrophe, this is why I am shooting the Katagawas at the start of like certain really difficult boss fights, like WRECKS, who has a lot of health and nothing that, the incendiary damage works well on, so this helps us out a lot, especially when you're shooting that Katagawas. Fist of Stone is fantastic when we're spamming the Fish Slaps and allow you to get that Forge skill back almost instantly. I do Electrical Fire to help proc up Catastrophe a little bit quicker. And then Amon just does not feel great mobbing without Berserk, and it even helps out our bossing damage an insane amount when using the Fish Slap. Because we get Berserk, there's only red to increase that cryo damage even further by quite a bit. And then you do My Touch is Death because the Fish Slaps are going to be stacking this up for you. You're going to get it this times 10 very, very quickly. So that's going to be pretty nice. And just to get down to My Touch is Death, I have 2 points into Brooming Vigor just for the melee damage because it's going to help out our Fish Slap. So it ends up working really nice. And then our final 3 points just go into the Thrill to help out our survivability while we're mobbing. This does help out a lot, so I highly recommend that. It keep you up a bit more often. You don't have to spam quite as many rep kits. We went over quite a few of the weapons already, but just to reiterate, Rainbow Vomit is a very good option. Anarchy is currently my favorite for any sort of mobbing section. Then Oscar Mike is really good for the Space Laser on the bosses. I recommend having like 2 of these as well, just in case, because there's a long cooldown on this. It is really nice to have just another one if you're trying to farm a boss over and over again. You could like equip 2, because you don't always need the Katagawas. You don't need the Rainbow Vomit equipped. So if you just have 2 Oscar Mics on, that does help out with like just alternating as you're running through farming a boss over and over. Otherwise, you are going to have to save quit, which is kind of the annoying part of Amon right now. Like, you can't just walk up to the medic vendor and get your forge skill back, stuff like that. So that part is kind of annoying. Just keep that in mind. Why I do recommend having 2 of them in your inventory. For the rep kit, I do have amp splash for our bossing. For mobbing, I would get rid of the splash and go amp and accelerator. That way you can just live in your action skill more and just always, have your fists out ready to punch. So ideally, that's what I'd be running, but amp splash is what I had on for literally everything that you've seen so far gameplay-wise, and it works out really well. Fish slap, I have cooldown. I would like an extra charge if I could. And then for our class mod, this is a furnace. This is going to be a must for this build. One, it's going to be giving us incendiary damage, which is really nice. It's going to be giving us all of our, capstone stuff, all of the forge skills into incendiary damage. Gives us a bunch of points into Dragon's Breath. That's highly, highly important. Like, essentially, this breakdown right here is what I want with 4 Dragon's Breath and 3 into Raging Inferno or whatever it's called. I always forget its name, sorry. Yeah, Raging Inferno. That's going to be my ideal roll. You could probably go 5 and 2, to be honest. Doesn't really matter too much. Then incendiary damage, splash damage ends up being a good random roll. You can do, any sort of like crit chance, gun crit chance stuff. It's going to help you out. Anything along those lines will be perfectly fine. Just focus on that skill breakdown. Then for our shield, I do what's for dinner for the bonus shock damage. And then I just have Siphon and Amp on here. Siphon's going to help us out, get us that overshield to proc the bonus shock damage. And then Amp is going to combine with, we're trying to do a really, really big hit to start the fight. So this does help out a lot, having both of these on our what's for dinner. And then our enhancement. Right now I'm just doing things to just straight up boost the Oscar mic. Like, this thing is pretty bad. Like, I'm not using any Malawon weapons. I just have assault rifle, gun splash damage, and the assault rifle status effect damage. All ends up helping out the Oscar mic a lot. Just focus on, just generic gun damage would be really good. Assault rifle damage, good. If you want to have different ones for mobbing and bossing, you can. You can focus on one, like maybe more for the Anarchy, and then, one for the Daedalus. Like, if you had the Daedalus, more damage based off of your, like, reserve ammo, essentially, that one would be really good on there with just generic gun damage, assault rifle damage. Honestly, gun damage, assault rifle damage, shotgun damage would be, like, probably my god roll in terms of enhancements on a Daedalus one. You don't really need more damage for your Anarchy while mobbing. I just want to focus on getting the Oscar mic to hit it as hard as I can, so I have super consistent boss fights. For our firmware right now, I'm just running 3 Deadeye for the increased critical hit damage as we get crits. Ends up helping out quite a bit. Then I currently have 1 Gadget Ahoy for the Ordnance cooldown, and then a 1 Airstrike for the splash radius, just so it's a little bit easier for, like, the fish slaps to hit, everything to kind of hit. You could, drop a Gadget Ahoy for a 2nd Airstrike if you want more splash damage, which is going to help us double dip a little bit better. But it's completely up to you what you want to run. This is currently what I have equipped. I do want to try out 2 Airstrike, but right now this has been working pretty fine for me. But I do recommend the 3 Deadeye, and then whatever combination of, like, Gadget Ahoy and Airstrike that you can get your hands on. As for our specializations, right now I've been running Bullet Train, Groundbreaker, now with Caffeine, and I Am a Gun, just because we're doing, like, that action skill damage. All of our gun bonuses can apply to it. But ideally, my, like, order for what you should be equipping is obviously get Bullet Train first, just because it's, right there and you kind of have to get it first. So just get Bullet Train, then try to get Now with Caffeine so you can live in your action skill a bit longer. Then go for Groundbreaker, and then finally with I Am a Gun. The difference with and without Groundbreaker for the mobbing sections is pretty big. This really, really helps you one-tap a lot of the mobs if you do your Rocket Punch. So I really do recommend getting Groundbreaker as quick as you can after you get Bullet Train and Now with Caffeine. I might trade out Bullet Train with Riddle You This once I'm high enough specialization level, but right now I'm only level 53 on this character, so I do got a little bit of grinding to do, but for the most part, this 4 have been working out really well for me. As always, I'm going to walk you through some gameplay here, just how to play this. At the start of any fight, what you essentially want to do is activate your Forge skill to get Berserk going, then throw out your fish slaps to be stacking that Berserk, then you can start going crazy. Right out of the gate. We're going to get better and better damage as our Anarchy gets stacked with kills. Right there you can see essentially, what I'm talking about with the 1-taps, and if they don't die, you punch them, and then they're going to end up dying with our Rocket Punch. Is really, really good. And it's very satisfying. Like, here's a badass. Let's get him to 10. Unfortunately, ran out of our action skill right there, but ends up being okay. You can just throw a few fish slaps, shoot an Anarchy. Again, we're only at 8 stacks of Anarchy currently. We can get up to 20, so it's going to be way better here in the future. Then in between our action skill, make sure you're popping your rep kits and then lining up your forge skill to go through as many enemies as possible, because every enemy it goes through, you're going to be getting cooldown for your action skill. And then you can also increase the duration of your action skill. So if we get our forge skill back here in this action skill, I don't think we will, just because all the enemies are kind of respawning in a new place. We could technically cast out the forge skill again and then be able to get our action skill just going even longer, which is really nice. But yeah, you can see exactly what's going on here. I'm going to try to hit those 3. Boom, action skills back. We can just now start blowing these guys up. This is like kind of the boss of the zone. Shoot him a couple times, punch him. He's dead. He just evaporates. So you can see the damage output is pretty crazy, and we're now, you know, at our 20 stacks of anarchy. So it's going to start feeling way better as we go through the mobbing sections. I'm pretty sure you can travel with the anarchy with all of its stacks, as long as you don't, you know, manually reload and put it away and stuff. So that's why I do like to just keep this in my hands until I'm at a boss. And even like badasses, stuff like that, I do end up just keeping the anarchy equipped. But yeah, we can just keep going and just blowing through these enemies. Make sure you're popping your rep kits. This is also why I kind of want Accelerator, just so I can live in the active skill a bit longer. The TDR chucks still do really good damage. These warheads end up hitting pretty hard and have a lot of health, but you can see in just, you know, a shot and a punch, end up just dying. It doesn't really matter. You do a ton of damage, and the mobbing is feeling way better in this build for me compared to what it was kind of at the start with a lot of the things I was trying. So this is why I am really settled on this part of the setup with all the Berserk and the Anarchy, everything that's going for it. Just try not to blow yourself up with the fish slaps and the TDRs. That's like really the biggest thing that can down you, is just yourself. So just keep that in mind. Play a little careful. You'll get used to, you know, how many shots you can shoot with your Anarchy if you end up using this weapon. And it's going to feel a lot better once you get used to that. Here's some big boys at the end, and we can increase our duration right there with our forge skill. And then we are going to just wait for our fish slaps to kind of go away here, because I do not want to blow myself up. And we'll just go in and punch him. And boosh, gone. This guy, boosh, gone. It's very, very satisfying. And if you do notice yourself getting really close to an enemy and you notice you're reloading, just dash backwards. It'll save you quite a bit, as it did right there for me. Something you're going to get used to and kind of get used to playing around. So there's a lot. It takes a little bit to get used to, I will admit. But once you do get it going, it feels really, really good to play this Amon. Yeah, that is our Detonation Amon. I think this is one of the best feeling Amon builds that I've used so far. It is really satisfying, does a ton of damage, clears quickly. I stay alive pretty well, obviously, except for occasionally blowing myself up with some of my TDR chucks when I'm not paying attention to my ammo. But once again, you don't have to use that TDR. You could just use a Rainbow Vomit and you'll be fine for the damage. So it's completely up to you whether or not you want to be going down. But I've never like fully died with this build. Like, you technically can happen if you were to, you know, TDR chuck on the very last enemy. But most of the time, if I do go down, you have your Anarchy stack still. So like, you can just one tap anything that's around you and you're right back up. So it doesn't even really matter if you end up downing yourself. And once you get used to your rotations, you can be immune a lot with Forged and Steel. There's a lot of really cool things that you can be utilizing with this build. But hopefully you guys do enjoy and have some fun with it. But yeah, if you did enjoy the build video, make sure you leave a like on the video, comment. Also, if you want to help me hit 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, that'd be greatly appreciated. And hopefully you guys hit that subscribe button and catch us back for more Borderlands 4 videos. Yeah, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.